Hello everybody, good afternoon. My name is Elena Dagons and I am Lance's teacher of the Education Center on the Teachings of Grigori Grabovoi. We, the teachers of Education Center, often receive a variety of different questions on the teachings of Grigori Grabovoi. And today I thought, why not to create a special row of short webinars dedicated to the answers for your questions, dear all interested in the teachings of Grigori Grabovoi. Because I'm sure that a lot of people have the same questions. First of all, I will read the questions I received and then will explain my point of view. So, one of my listeners writes, I thought I would ask you here about something else that I've been thinking about since I had been introduced to Dr. Grabovoi's teachings. It's about having eternal life. Is there anyone who is really immortal in this world? I just saw a post on Facebook from someone who is into Dr. Grabovoi's teachings, and I think her dad just passed away. And then I was thinking, if she's practicing diligently, would she be able to prevent this from happening? Or is it really hard to prevent someone from passing away? And also, if someone is able to live an eternal life, people around him will start thinking if he or she is worth, because he or she doesn't seem to grow old, and that the person will have to experience pain seeing their loved ones leave them. Unquote. I think similar questions are of concern to many. Moreover, the question about people who are really immortal was recently asked to Grigori Grabovoi in the forum Myth and Reality. The question on the forum was, do you know people on the earth who have reached the state of eternity that you preach? What distinguishes these people from others, and how can they be recognized? Now on the screen you can see the screenshot of the website of Education Center where this article is exhibited. In short, the answer of Grigori Grabovoi was, I can say that yes, there are such people who have reached the state of eternity, and many followers of my teachings have achieved this state. The difference is that the internal generation of the state of eternity occurs, which interacts with outside world, and the world is reflected as an eternal structure. This is a special, so to speak, system of control. Unquote. You can listen to the answers of Dr. Grabovoi to the questions. His speech has already been translated into English and even exhibited in the text on the website of Education Center of Grigori Grabovoi. As for the second question about our loved ones, how to prevent their passing away, we always do our best to prevent death of our loved ones. But the fact is, every person has a free will, and the decision is made by his soul together with God. It happens on an unconscious level. That is, the person himself may not realize it. However, in any case, it's much easier to help a person who accepts the ideology of the teachings of eternal life and works himself using the technologies. And if not, we still help doing our best of our ability and transmit knowledge to him on a spiritual level. But it's impossible to force to live. Try asking different people would they like to live forever. A few years ago, in one of the media, journalists arranged such a survey. Most people refused to live forever. In a very short while, everything changed. Now, more and more people want to be forever young and healthy. Look how many aged people look much younger now. It wasn't like this just a few decades ago. I remember how my grandmothers and their peers at the age of 60, 70, 80 looked, how they dressed. Life had fled, everything is in the past, and just feebleness, disease, and graveyard are ahead. If you remember the days of Pushkin, this is the first part of the 19th century. I remember a phrase in some work by Pushkin. An old man of 30 came into the living room. And now many create a family mm, after 40 years. Women give birth after 50. You can treat it differently, but it's impossible to deny it. This trend exists, and it is growing. Turns out that everything is in our minds. We build everything for ourselves: diseases, health, and events. If we recall once again that matter at the quantum level can have two states, in the form of a wave of light and in the form of corpuscles or particles of matter, then based on the wave level of reality, we can control matter. Because consciousness is also a wave. That is, by means of consciousness, it's possible to influence the wave structure and thereby strengthen physical matter or make it eternal. As for the question, if someone is able to live an eternal life, people around him will start thinking if he or she is worth because he or she doesn't seem to grow old, and that the person will have to experience pain seeing their loved ones leave them. Then I can say that I answered the first part of this question. People in old age now look better than they appeared just a few decades ago. It's clear that this doesn't happen to everyone, and largely due to the success of plastic surgery and innovations in cosmetology. But nevertheless, with the help of such means, people's consciousness changes as a whole. In fact, the number, the age in the passport is not so important. You can feel like an old man at the age of 20, and you can make plans for the future at the age of 80. After all, when we make plans, we see ourselves in the future alive, healthy, and active in some action. The teachings of Grigori Grabovoi, a huge number of technologies, are based precisely on the construction of future events, on the vision of oneself in the future in some actions. For example, in the lecture Three Positions of Consciousness Structuring, Prevention of Possible Global Catastrophe, Control Directly Out of One's Consciousness, Grigori Petrovich says, Eternal Creator, the eternal God, he gives birth to the eternal, and therefore the Creator's purpose is eternal life for all, because the eternal creates the eternal. This is just the law of information by the type of uniformity of information creation. This, says Grigori Petrovich, is utterly exact mathematical task. There is even such a principle, if from the point of view of mathematics. A large set still leads to a large set. The element of eternity development and its image is the man himself. There is such a technology here. You have to perceive yourself both in the present and in the future, and this impulse, it will steadily control reality so that a global catastrophe doesn't happen. Unquote. Well, it's clear that if we see ourselves in the present and in the future, then of course a global catastrophe will not happen. If a person sees himself in the present and in the future, then he lives and is going to live on, makes plans, events, and global catastrophe doesn't happen. and about the fact that people will have to experience the pain seeing his loved ones leaving him, those who didn't accept the ideology of eternal life or who failed to cope with the disease, the circumstances. Yes, of course, we all are human and we are hurt when loved ones leave us. That's why we're trying to disseminate this information as widely as possible. No, the fact is that there is such a principle. Our consciousness perceives as reality what exists in our consciousness. Grigori Petrovich said that the value of human body is higher than the ability to destroy. And this axiom, value of human body, this thought that physical body of man has no value, introduction of such axiom into collective consciousness of people really makes human body indestructible. That is, when this thought about indestructibility of human body, about its inestimable value is impressed into collective consciousness, turns out that if someone has an idea to release the key press the button of nuclear power systems control to start the war, then collective consciousness will work so that it won't happen. Something happens and it doesn't take place. Collective consciousness is a very powerful structure. As it was mentioned, our consciousness perceives what exists in our consciousness as reality. That is, if we have some notions in our consciousness, in our mind, we may not even see them in physical reality. Let's remember the well-known fact that when the ships of Columbus approached the shores of America, American Indians didn't see them. They couldn't see them because they had no idea that it was possible for the whole houses floating on water, and only ripples on the water showed them that there was something unusual on the water. So, once again, the thought of indestructibility and inestimable value of physical body becomes perpetuated in collective consciousness, the same will be in physical reality. That is, it will become the law for everyone, as for example, the law of gravity always works under any circumstances. At the end of today's webinar, in the end of today's meeting, I would like to emphasize that in the works of Grigori Grabovoi, the accent is made on non-dying. Indeed, man must live forever. Non-dying is the way to eternal life. Grabovoi talks about this principle of non-dying everywhere in all his works and gives concrete technologies for control. You can find the technologies of non-dying in the following books of Grigori Grabovoi. Like, for example, Numbers of Stars for Eternal Life, Numbers for Successful Business, Number Series for Psychological Normalization, Numerical Concentrations for the Products, Concentration on Plants Numbers to Restore the Body, and many, many others. And all of them you can find on Amazon. Thank you for your attention. Please send your questions about Dr. Grabovoi's teachings. And I'm wishing all of you eternal, harmonious, and happy life. Bye bye.